Good morning, children. My name is V.K. Rajiv. I'm your biology faculty for your class current session 2020-2021. In this session, the first chapter of biology class that we are going to study is life processes. Welcome to the session 2020-2021, and let's begin with our class. We have prepared this video in splitted manner so that it's easy for you to copy and cope up. It's the video of half an hour or so, and period wise, lecture wise, the chapter would be covered. In the first period or first lecture, I will be showing you some introductory part of this chapter, and followed by this there are subsequent chapters in correct sequence. So let's begin with our first lecture, and in order to see the other lectures, please subscribe to this YouTube channel, and you will get notification about the next lecture whenever it is uploaded. If your friends wish to see, please share this video link to all of your classmates, if of this school or wherever you want. You can just share it on your wall of your Facebook or social sites. So, dear students, let's begin with our first lecture of the chapter Life Processes. First of all, when we need to study about the life processes, we need to first of all think upon life processes are the characteristics of what. Obviously, if you ponder upon this thing, you will get to know that they are living things. Living things are certain things which have actually the criteria which makes them living thing. There are two things in the nature. You might have studied from junior sections also, that one is living thing, other is non-living thing. The question is, what are the criteria that helps us to distinguish between living and non-living? We won't go deep into that because you have already studied those things. Certain things which we need to underline here is, first, every living thing shows movement. Now the question arises, what is movement? The movement is, it can be internal body part movement or the movement of living thing from one place to another, which is called locomotion. We will talk about that later. But here, certain living things, all living things have a lifespan. What is lifespan? Every living thing is born, every living thing dies. So the distance or the time distance or duration between the birth of a living thing and death of the living thing is called lifespan. So every living thing has got certain length of life, and that is called the lifespan. Here, it is not available with non-living things. It's available with the living things only. Second thing that living thing can show is, they show movement. It's okay, but how? That movement is of two kinds. One, you can see that the cars are also moving, machines also moving, living things show movement. Then what is special about the living things movement? Then here is the line which should be noted, that they move with intrinsic energy. Intrinsic means it is means internal factor, means there is no external factor which is helping the living things to move. Whereas in the non-living things, we need electricity, we need petrol, we need diesel, we need kerosene, we need fuels to run them. But in the case of living things, we don't need any kind of extrinsic factor. So we living things move with the help of intrinsic energy. Alright? Yeah, the movements may be easily visible like that of body parts, or not easily visible like that in molecules. Now the question is, what does this point mean? Here in our body, the movements can be of two kinds. First movement is like the body parts. You move your hands to pick up your pencil, to pick up your book, to fight, to smile. So body parts are moving, so it's visible. So that movement can be visible easily. But can you see the blood movement inside your vessels? Can you see the cytoplasmic movement inside your cells? No, you cannot. Can you see the movement of protein, vitamin from one place of the body to other? No, you cannot. So these are the things which we see, that the movement in molecules cannot be easily visible, but movements in the body parts can be easily visible. Another thing is that molecular movements in cells or tissues is very important for life processes. So here the life processes cannot run until and unless the molecules move inside our cells or tissues. So these are some of the pictures which you can see to recognize that what we are talking about. These are small, right from small living things to the bigger living things. All living things are here shown one by one. Now the question arises, what is life process? My dear children, life processes are those basic processes. Every living thing has to live. Every living thing has to survive. Every living thing has to complete their lifespan. So what are the different processes that help the living things to complete their life process? And so there are certain basic functions that their cells perform, that their tissues perform, their organ performs, their organ systems perform. Altogether the body performs in order to run their life. So basic, the definition need to be underlined here, that basic processes carried out in living organisms which are necessary for maintaining their life. So this is the small but sweet definition which is justifying your word life processes. Basic processes carried out in living organisms which are necessary for maintaining their lives. My dear children, then what are the different functions? What are those functions to be performed? What are the processes do we perform in our body? So basic 4 functions have been underlined over here or mentioned in your syllabus right now here to study. Those basic functions which we need to underline over here are as follows. Number 1 is nutrition. What is nutrition? We will deal with this in detail. Right now only definitions have been mentioned in this slide here. So the taking in of food and its utilization by our body. We all need food. We take food. So we need to take it in first, and we need to after that digest and utilize it for our basic life processes. So that whole entire process is called nutrition. Second is respiration. Respiration. When you put food inside your body, your food is the fuel for your body. Yes, your food is fuel for your body. When it's taken in, then it's burnt. So unless the fuel is burnt, energy won't be produced. So this food is taken in, it's burnt inside, and then after burning, its energy is produced. That helps us to run our life. Eating leads to sleeping, talking, walking, running. So all these works are done with the help of energy. So this all energy is utilized for running our life processes. So here respiration is the process by which the burning of food takes place to produce energy for performing life processes. The third important function that our body has to perform is transportation. It's not with the truck, it's not with the lorry, just but similar to that the products which are produced somewhere in the factory, they have to be transported from one place to another to the consumer from the manufacturers. So yes, so when our food is burnt, energy is produced. When the food is burnt, then its nutrient has to be absorbed, so those nutrients have to be transported from one place to another. So what are the basic nutrients that have to be transported? They are food, they are water, they are oxygen, and also after the whole metabolism, the waste which is generated, that is the waste. That waste products are also transported across the body. After that, after the transportation, the whole metabolism takes place, entire things are done, then obviously the waste product can be produced. There's a waste product which are produced, which are very toxic, which are harmful for our body. They should be taken off from the body. So that is the process of removal of waste products from the body is called excretion. So here generally we perform these basic 4 life processes to maintain our lives go healthy, right? So whole and soul objective is our life should be healthy. So in order to maintain our healthy life, we need to perform these basic 4 functions. You can see the nutrition's entire alimentary canal system has been shown in this figure. So in this case, the nutrition is actually will be taught like right from your buccal cavity where we take food in. So we will deal with these in the different animals have got the different habits of ingestion and all those things, right? So we will talk about those in the later segment of the classes. Please stay tuned to this channel and get notified whenever the new chapter is uploaded. So here, this is the nutrition figure which will be dealt in detail in this class as per your syllabus. This is the process in which we are taking the use of lungs and respiratory system. So it's all about the humans, whereas we will also talk about some other living organisms also little bit in brief. So here, this is the lungs system which helps in the respiration. Here is the circulatory systems picture which you recall from the class 7, grade 7, you have already seen that. And here this is the another excretory system which contains the kidney in our body. So we will talk about this in the other classes. So the next thing which we need to see here is what is nutrition. The nutrition which you dealt in the previous you dealt in the previous one, that the nutrition is the process, so dealt in the previous slide, that taking in of food and its utilization by our body. So you must be wondering that it must be of the different kinds actually. So what are the different kinds of nutrition that we have to study in your syllabus? Generally, my dear children, nutrition can be on the basis of the mode of what they are actually performed, what they are actually accomplished, right? So the different living things in our nature, they actually perform the nutrition with 2 different modes basically, as per the classification of living things which you had studied in class 9. So you had the basic characteristic on which the basis of which the living things are classified. So first was the cell, after that it was the organization, the next one of those was also their mode of nutrition. So the mode of nutrition, basically we are actually underlining 2 modes of nutrition in our in the nature. One, the living things which are directly or indirectly dependent upon the plants for food. Yes. And here is another autotrophic, which is independent for food. Independent means they are not dependent upon others. They make their own food. They have certain infrastructure. They have certain mechanism, and they have certain facilities that helps them to produce their own food. So since the word is auto means self, and the trophism means nutrition. So the living things which are actually not dependent upon others and they are self-dependent for food, so they are called autotrophs. Alright, autotrophs. So the nutrition is called autotrophic nutrition, whereas the others which are hetero, not self. Hetero means not self. So hetero and the tropism means nutrition. So they are not self-dependent upon not self-dependent for food, where rather they depend upon the green plants. So here obviously now your critical thinking must be underlining that yes, the who are the autotrophs? They are the green plants, not all the plants. There are many other plants also parasitic and insectivorous, but they are not. But here the green plants which contain chlorophyll, so they are autotrophic. Other than that, the heterotrophic, they are dependent upon the plants for food. I have not written any other thing over here. I am writing only two things, directly or indirectly. Now you think what is the direct dependence and what are the indirect dependence for food on the plants, right? Yes. So autotrophic, when we see, then autotrophic, obviously we see that they are the green plants. They contain certain things in their body that helps them to produce their own food. So they are the green plants. They grow, they produce. They are also called producers, right? Like manufacturers in factories are manufacturers in our markets. So here in the nature, the manufacturer is green plant, and they are all called autotrophs, right? Yes. Or on the other hand, when we see heterotrophic nutrition, then in the heterotrophic nutrition we see that based on because they are directly or indirectly dependent, but based on how they take food. Yes, how they take food, whether they take solid food or they take liquid food, or they take from living things or from non-living things. How these all are the factors that helps us to classify the heterotrophic living organisms into three categories. You must have been watching that two categories are actually under the same branch. Yes, and one is distinctly shown in the another branch, right? So here is the single, that one branch which we have written is the holozoic. Yes, this is the holozoic nutrition. This holozoic nutrition means certain living things, they take food in a solid state. We will deal with this in the next another episode of this class. So here they take food with the help of in the solid state, with the help of certain mechanism like amoeba takes, like human beings take. These all the animals actually they take solid food and then digest it inside our body. So they are called holozoic. But on the other hand, certain living things do not take solid food. They take liquid food. They actually get the digested food already, because food after getting digested they convert into liquid state. So that liquid food is only directly taken by these living things. But it depends upon whether they take it from the living things or they take it from the non-living things. So the living things which take liquid food from living things, whether from inside the living thing or from outside the living thing, they are called parasitic. And the living things are called parasite, and the nutrition is called parasitic mode of nutrition. Alright? Yes, they are called parasites. We will deal with this, that how many kinds of parasites are there. Generally the parasites are actually based on how they take food, right? Whether they take it from outside the living thing. What is that living thing called? From where these parasites take food? The living things that give food to them are called hosts. Alright, so they derive food from host. So if the parasite is inside the body of host, they are called endoparasite. And if the parasite is outside the host body, then it is called ectoparasite. Yes, so ectoparasite and endoparasite. These are the two kinds of parasites, and the common thing is that they take liquid food, derived food, digested food or nutrients from the host. Actually they take food, but indirectly they are causing harm to the host body, which they don't know at all, right? So there are certain like trypanosoma you had studied in the previous class, like plasmodium, you had also seen this. Some viruses are also parasitic in nature, right? So actually these all stay in the host body, or some leech is the ectoparasite, right? So they take food from outside the body. But the common thing is that both derived both derive the digested food from the host's body. This causes problem later on to the host. Well, on the other hand, the another living thing that takes liquid food from the another host, you can say that host is actually here dead or decayed. They are not living things. They don't take food from the living things. So certain living things which take food from or liquid food from the dead or decayed organic matter, those are called saprozoic. Saprozoans कह सकते हो आप उसको, or it you can also say saprotrophs, right? So that the saprotrophic, the mode of nutrition is called saprozoic kind of nutrition. So basically we got that heterotrophic nutrition can be of three kinds. One is holozoic, that involves the taking in of solid food and then digesting it inside the body. Second is the liquid food, which is actually digested already and then taken by the living things. If they take it from the dead or decayed organic matter, then they are called saprozoic kind of nutrition, and if they are taken from the living host, then they are called a parasitic mode of nutrition. If the parasites are living inside the host, then they are called ectoparasite, and if they are living outside the body, then they are called the inside the body, then endoparasite. Well, summarized is the autotrophic nutrition, where the living things do not take, but they produce their own food. So when they produce their own food, they are called autotrophic. They are also called producers. They are the first link in the ecosystem, which you must remember. They are first receivers. Well, we will deal with this in the later part of the classes. Here they are actually green plants. Then they derive, then the certain living things, they take or directly or indirectly, they take food from the plants. So if they take a solid food, then they are called holozoic nutrition. The nutrition is called holozoic. And if they take liquid food from the dead or decayed, they are called saprozoic. If they take liquid food from the living organism, they are called, the kind of nutrition is called parasites. Well, then you can see the pictorial presentation in this. In the pictorial presentation, you can see the examples of this. Generally, what you see here is that if you see here is that the process by which living things produce their own food is actually called photosynthesis. You can see, where do they get energy from? They get energy from the sun. What is happening in this? Generally, they contain certain facilities. Almost they must be completing. Their leaves contain certain pigments which you must be already aware of. You must be already aware of that you had studied that in class 7. Yes, in that case you will also see that they are taking energy from the sun. This energy helps them to convert carbon dioxide, which is in the air, and water and minerals, which is from the soil, into glucose in the form of food, right? Food in the form of glucose. And this, after that, the oxygen is released. The whole process is actually called photosynthesis. This is actually the mode of nutrition which is called this mode of nutrition is called autotrophic nutrition. Well, on the other hand, you must be very much aware of this kind of things which grow near the damp roots of some plants, some trees, which you often call mushroom, agaricus and all that. So which you see, they are actually the fungus group of the living organism. We have studied it in the diversity of living organism in class 9, right? In class 9 you had studied already. So these living things are actually called saprozoic. On the other hand, you can also see here some plants. Two plants are living in the relation in which one is suffering a loss, another is getting profit. So this plant, which is actually, you can see the Cuscuta, Amarbel. So these are the plants which actually Doda, right? So they actually live on the host plant. So they take food food from the other plant. They are called parasites, parasitic plants. And you can see here, this is amoeba picture. This amoeba is actually taking some solid food through the help of pseudopodia, right? Phagocytosis takes place over here. In this case, this pseudopodia helps them to trap food, and they take solid food inside the body. Solid food inside the body with the help of certain mechanism. This is actually called Holozoic nutrition. Let's have the quick recap of what we studied in the today's class. We studied in the today's class, my dear children, the characteristic of we all were studying about life processes. We all studied about life processes, in which life process we had to study first of all the living and non-living things to certain criteria, which helps us to classify whether it's a living thing or non-living things. So first one, we studied about every living thing shows movement. Then second, we studied about every living thing has a lifespan. They move with intrinsic energy. They don't need any other external effort. So movements may be easily visible like that of body parts, or not easily visible like that in molecules. Now molecular movements in cells or tissues is very important for life processes. These are certain points to be kept in mind for the living things, but opposite to this, none of these facilities are present in the, none of these characteristics are noticed in the non-living things. And we studied what are the things that living things perform. The living things perform the basic word process, that is called life processes, right? Life processes. These life processes are actually the basic processes carried out in living organisms, which are necessary for maintaining their lives. They are actually the four functions basically. That's one is the nutrition, second which is taking in of food and its utilization by the body, second is respiration, which is burning of food to produce energy for performing the life processes, third is the transportation, where it is a movement of food, water, oxygen and waste products across the body, within the body. And after that, a whole metabolism with the waste products are produced, they should be removed. So removal of waste products from the body is called excretion, right? Based on the mode of nutrition, the nutrition is classified into basically two modes. One, if the living thing is self-dependent for food, then it's called autotrophic, where these are the green plants, autotrophic, which are the green plants. And another thing is the heterotrophic, which is not self-dependent, but they are directly or indirectly dependent upon the plants for food. They may take food in the solid state, or they may take food in the liquid state. So if they take food from the solid state, they are called holozoic nutrition. The mode of nutrition is called holozoic nutrition. And if in the nutrition in which involves the taking of food in the liquid state, that if it's from the living thing, then it is called parasitic nutrition, or if it is taken from the dead or decayed organic matter, then it is called a saprozoic mode of nutrition. Well, with the help of this, we can see also that example of autotrophic nutrition, the green plants over here, where energy is taken from the sun, and carbon dioxide and water are the raw materials, with the help of which the food is formed in the form of glucose, and with the help of chlorophyll present in the leaf, and subsequently oxygen is produced out. Other than that, heterotrophic nutrition, which we can here, one example is fungus, which is a mushroom example is maybe seen. There are many others which are coming into this category. You can refer to the class 9's classification for recapitulation, which are the things which are saprozoic living things. Other than that, there are some living things which take from derived food from the living things. They are called parasitic. Those other living thing in which they are taking food is called the host. So host parasite relationship can be studied in this. And on the other hand, we can see that living things are some living things like amoeba, paramecium, we humans, cats, dogs, all the mammals, they all take food from the take food in the solid state, and then they digest them in their body with a certain mechanism. So guys, we have covered up the first class today. We will look up to the next class in the next episode of this channel. Please stay tuned for the further class, further lectures. Thank you and have a nice day ahead. to be continued.